you cannot say that China cannot, or China should stop or reduce its export. It cannot be, because it's a kind of urbanization process that is driving China's export growth. Of course, in the meantime, China's import is also being increased simultaneously. That's another side of the coins, which we are not talking today. So, what I'm trying to say is that the so-called poverty alleviation or long-term economic growth in the developing countries, including China, depend to a large extent on urbanization. And urbanization needs job creation, and job creation needs export, because still need external market to keep the job creation process. And some people in China even talking about maybe we have to reduce export because of the very large international pressure. We are talking about so-called export goods create a lot of pollution in China and create a lot of environment problem in China. Yes. However, there's no logic linkage between these two. It's not necessary that export goods create pollution. So long as you have good technology for the pollution control, as long as you have good management for the pollution control, good export goods do not mean necessarily the pollution of the environment. So there's a low logic linkage between these two. So my basic conclusion is that for the developing country, we still need to rely on export as an important engine for economic growth, especially the long-term economic growth, because we have to continue this poverty reduction in the rural areas. And for the reduction of the poverty in the rural areas, we have to move, first and foremost, most of them from the rural areas to the cities. This is a historic trend. There's a famous American economist said, there are two major things that will change the world in the 21st century. Number one is the advanced technology and scientific innovation in the United States. And secondly, urbanization in China. Because the great trend of immigration of millions of farmers into the cities is a great historical process of poverty alleviation for the rural areas, and also for China, and for other developing countries. Nobody cannot stop that. So the kind of organization like ITC in promoting trade is very legitimate, especially for the developing countries. And we cannot, developed countries cannot blame developing countries to do that, because you did that for a long time. You're relying on our markets to develop yourselves. You should not forget about that kind of history. So, my conclusion is that we still need to use exports as the engine for long-term economic growth. However, we also hope developed countries can have some patience to see that developing countries needs this kind of transitional period for them to move in from an export-led growth pattern to a domestic consumption-based economic growth pattern, just like China did. We need that transitional period. We need some time to achieve that goal you also would like us to do. We need time. And we cannot achieve that goal overnight. If you have this kind of patience, you will see that China and Brazil, China, India, and many other major developing countries will one day become a kind of domestic consumption-based economy. At that time, you could very much enjoy a kind of more balanced economic growth. But we need this transitional period. You need, developing countries need, developed countries need, the world need. So I still continue, we still hope that we shall make every best efforts to use export as a long-term economic growth for the developing world. And China is continuing to do that. I believe that is international experience and lessons we all have to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Long, very much for that. It's very reassuring in this particular day and age, and with all what we're hearing, to know that the export-led growth model remains alive. I turn to Mr. Yang, if you could please give us a private sector perspective on this. Thank you very much.
My Chinese is much better than English. Then we have the simultaneous translator. Their English much better than Chinese. So I speak in Chinese. Please put on your earphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, today, on behalf of Huawei Technologies Corporation Limited, I would like to deliver a very brief presentation. My topic is Huawei is growing with Africa. In 1978, China launched its Reform and Opening Up initiative. So China's economy is transitioning from semi or total closed situation to an open situation. And such an opening up is growing in breadth and in depth. So China is going from being open and to taking the initiative to be open. So the establishment of Huawei Technology Corporation is going along with such a great process. 1 decade after 1978, that is in 1988, Huawei was created. So you can see that Huawei is opening with China. Huawei is at the center of China's reform initiative, reform endeavor. So Huawei certainly can leverage upon its experience to provide success stories and useful experience to other countries. So the managerial expertise and best practice of Huawei has been applied to over 100 countries in the world. So the profit has already amounted to 1 billion RMB. Huawei has successfully made itself the provider of the next generation of IT technology. Our company certainly boasts entrepreneurship as well as innovation. Ever since the establishment in 1988, Huawei, revolving around the innovation in a consistent way, Huawei has provided the job opportunities to 95,000 employees, with 43,000 in China. In the list of patents registration announced by IP, by the International Intellectual Organization, 9 years after the establishment of Huawei, it went out to Africa. So Huawei embraced the vision of growing with Africa. Huawei is committed to developing the business together with development of Africa. After 3 years of staunch efforts, we have become one of the largest providers of technologies in Africa, delivering service to 40 countries each and every year. In Africa, we boasted a turnover of 5 million RMB, 500 million US dollars. Huawei has all along cherished the strategy of green development. We never grow our business by compromising the environmental protection. We are proactively developing green technology solutions. Developing environmentally friendly technologies is one of our mantra. So certainly, we have also developed green solar technology, and we are one of the largest